Hello, back to AIX training. This is our, once again, IBM AIX class 8020. Okay. 8020 training, solving 80% of the problem with 20% of the knowledge. Again, we are on part 3 section of this training. We went over the basic concept of LVMs. We were on this slide right here. Like I was mentioning before, you know, if you ever installed AIX, you will see, and compared to some other operating system, AIX installation is very simple. There isn't many options that you can do during installation. There is no LVM option other than I believe maybe JFS or JFS2 option over there, and that about it. Uh, in terms of the LVN name, root VG name, all that is pretty much default, and it's just pretty standard across um, all the AI systems all over the world. There's a concept of quorum in in the disk VG. A little bit confusing. So I'll touch base on that on a later time. Okay, now we're gonna basically go over. We're just gonna go over the commands, and in part 4, we will actually go through and do the commands. So I'm gonna try to break the lectures in the last bit. So this lecture will just go over the commands, majority of the commands, and explain the commands. And in part 4, we'll actually go through and run some of the commands and see some of the output and the reaction and what you can do, and we really see the commands. So this part 3 we should be very short section. Importing and exporting. Now, in vary on and vary off. Okay, vary on and vary off. Basically, it activates or deactivates, or enables or disables the volume group. The volume group is still known by the system. The system knows that volume group. Okay, if you run a command called lsvg, okay, if that volume group is varied off, that volume group will still appear in the list of that command. That command is pulling information from the ODM. Okay, so basically it knows that that disk, it has information on that VGDA, and it knows the file system. It knows about that disk. It knows about that volume group. And so you can vary on, vary off the file, and of course, all the file systems would have to be unmounted in order for you to vary off the file system. So this is what the difference is between vary on and vary off compared to import VG and export VG. This because they are a little bit confusing. Now, import VG, export VG, basically it removes the knowledge of the volume group from the system. So export when you export the volume group, you're basically removing the knowledge of that volume group from the system. The system just sees that as another disk. It doesn't know that if it has any volume group on that disk. Okay. Now, when you import a disk, it goes on the disk and looks for the VGDA. Okay, it looks for the VGDA, and it brings, and from based on that information, it brings that volume group on varied on, and most of the time the configuration is that whenever you import the VGDA, the input of VGDA, the volume groups get enabled by default. So you're importing the VGDA automatically does a vary on VG as well. Reduce VG, extend VG, LSVG, mirror VG, unmirror VG. Um, Pretty straightforward. LSVG, it just lists information on the desired VG. And there's multiple options there, and you can go through and look at it and try to see and understand the different information on that volume group. Extend VG, reduce VG. Pretty straightforward. Extend VG is when you're adding a disk to the volume group. Simple as that. Reduce VG is the opposite, is when you're removing a disk from a volume group. Okay, so if you need to replace a disk, for instance, you need to first remove all the data off that disk, okay, one way or another, um, and then do a reduce VG on that disk. Mirror, unmirror, very straightforward. These are the commands you would use to mirror the VG. Or if you need to break the mirror, then you would use unmirror VG. Pretty straightforward. So again, extend VG, reduce VG. So let's look at that picture that we had. So when you're doing extend VG, you're taking the disk and you're putting it inside of the volume group. When you're doing reduce, you're taking the disk and you're removing it from the volume group. There's some redundant information here on the device files. Uh, and during my training class, I did go over the book section also, which going through the section, and if there's any concepts or parts which I've missed in my PowerPoints, I would cover that material using the book. Uh, so I will go through that book and see if there's any sections that I need to cover, and then I will have that available in a different section on the LVM training class. Thank you. Bye bye.